long before mortals began measuring their days from sunrise to sunset, when the heavens were still young and the tapestry of time was just being woven, there existed a goddess tasked with shepherding life into each new day. In the mist-covered hills and wild moors of the Celtic lands, she emerged each dawn, illuminating skies and souls alike with her radiant presence. She was called Aini, goddess of the dawning light, tender caretaker of nascent hope. It was her charge to guide the morning sun over the horizon, ensuring that each day would come full of promise. Yet, in that ancient age, her role was fraught with peril, for night was prowled by beings who detested her brilliance. A legion of sleep demons, stirred by envy of the light, watched her every step with malevolent glee, waiting for a chance to subdue her and halt the sunrise forever. Eileen's presence alone kept darkness from devouring the world. As soon as the sun dipped below the horizon each evening, mortals counted on her promise that dawn was only hours away. She would retire for a brief respite, brushing moonlit dew from her ankles, knowing that at first light she must stand again on the horizon's edge. But stealthily, in the lingering gloom of the late night, the sleep demons swelled in numbers, gathering their forces in the twilight, plotting how to ensnare her brilliance. These creatures were faceless wraiths wearing cloaks of slumber, drifting through homes, creeping into the corners of mortal minds to sow nightmares and dread. Though mortals feared them, Aina bore no illusions. They sought her more than any, for as long as she rose, luminous and unyielding, they could never extend their dominion of oblivion. One night, the moon was a slim crescent in the sky, hardly illuminating the moors. In that thinner light, the sleep demons quietly advanced, carried on the wind's hush. Hidden in the swirling mists, they formed a ring around Iorni's resting grove, a secret grove of ancient oaks, believed to stand upon a place of raw magic. The grove was revered by the Druids, for the roots reached deep into the bedrock, tapping hidden sources of earthly power. Here, Aina would replenish after each dawn, absorbing strength from the old trees, lullabies of the wind, and murmured devotion of faithful hearts. In their cunning arrogance, the demons had discovered a way to temporarily bind her powers. Their leader, Narash, had seethed through centuries, driven by a single ambition: to keep the sun imprisoned beyond the horizon. He crafted a plan to lure Arena into a twilight trap. While she rested, the demons channeled nightmares into the grove's magical veins, twisting the mystical energies. Tendrils of black, intangible smoke seeped through the soil, coiling around the tree roots. A hush fell upon the swirling wind moments before dawn. With only a scant hour remaining until she would rise, Ayani sensed something was deeply amiss. The awakening light in her being and ember she ignited each dawn felt dampened and shackled. Confusion gripped her heart. She touched the bark of the nearest oak and felt an icy jolt where there should have been warmth. Across the sacred grove, the ancient trees groaned under invisible weight, their once whispering leaves now eerily hushed. Then, from the shadows, Narek emerged, a fluid, dark silhouette. The other demons prowled at his side, a swirling chorus of half-formed shapes, eyes glinting with bitter malice, and attempted to summon her light, to blaze bright enough to drive them away, but cold dread flooded in. She saw how the demons had corrupted the grove's magic. She could feel her power being muffled. Narak's voice, a hissing whisper that rode on the night air, broke the silence. "No dawn shall come today, Radiant One," he sneered. "The world will sleep forever." A chorus of the twisted shadows seethed around him, eager to watch her fail. But Ain had not emerged triumphant over countless errors without learning resilience. Though her immediate light was dampened, she still possessed the cunning of ancient days and the devotion of all those who yearned for sunrise. There was a small flicker inside her heart, an ember the demons overlooked, a flame fueled by faith hope, and love. Drawing a deep breath, Ain stepped forward with measured calm. "Light grows even in the darkest place," she declared. The words flowed from her in gentle defiance. The demons shrank back slightly. Night pressed in, but the faintest glow seemed to stir at her throat, as if dawn itself still lived behind her voice. Narach thrust out a spindly claw to test her defenses. She stood rooted, unwavering, and the world quivered around her. Although she did not strike him with a sudden beam of light, she did not bow. After a long moment of silent tension, the demon leader let out a soft snarl. Then, with cruel delight, Narach commanded his horde to coil around her, intangible hands grasping for the spark of dawn that lay within her. Their voices droned in a lullaby of nightmares, urging her to submit to slumber, to let the sunrise be stifled. Stubbornly, Aine struggled, each step feeling heavier, as if the entire weight of the black night had fastened itself to her limbs. Her eyelids sagged. Sleep's tendrils tugged on her, and the vision of the horizon's subtle glow faded from her mind. She glimpsed the oak trees standing helpless, their magic wrenched away. For the first time, the goddess understood dread. If the demons had pinned her here, a powerless captive, the sun's light would remain locked away. Darkness would settle over the land, unbroken by dawn. Perhaps the world would forget what day felt like. But as that dire thought took root, an image stirred her memory. The faces of mortal children waking at first morning's glow. The way farmers looked to the eastern sky for promise. The hope that called birds to sing at dawn's earliest hint. These fragments of life's devotion fed the faint glimmer inside her. She clenched her fists, summoning every spark of her power. A shock of that light erupted from her chest, banishing the demons for a few heartbeats. They hissed, swirling at the perimeter, while Narach scowled. She had broken their lull for only an instant, but her own strength was now faltering. She looked at the eastern sky with alarm. Dawn had already been delayed. The sun lingered below the horizon, searching for her guidance. In desperation, Aine searched the grove with her gaze, thinking of the ancient druids who once aided her in times of dire need. Generations before, the druids had erected stone circles to focus cosmic energy during solstices and equinoxes, forging a partnership with the land itself to protect her from these entities. Perhaps she could call on that old knowledge. Her mind reached out, an inaudible plea that resonated beyond the ephemeral wards, deep into the heart of the land. Her call was answered by an unlikely ally, Lorochren, the travelling bard, who had been sleeping at the outskirts of the grove that night, lulled there by the rumour of a hidden shrine. Though not a druid, Lorochren carried in his soul an uncanny sensitivity to the realm of dreams and the power of song. When Aeon's silent cry trickled through his slumber, it resonated in his mind like a distant note. He awoke with a jolt, finding himself enveloped by dark, swirling mist that cloyed at his senses. He felt something urgent, a summons from an unseen presence, and he scrambled through the gloom before dawn's faint glimmering hue. He did not realize yet that the goddess herself reached out to him. A spark of courage drove Luloran onward. Careful to remain invisible in the haze, the bard followed the faint flicker of glow that radiated from deeper within the grove. When he stumbled upon the ring of demon shadows, his breath caught in his throat. They were monstrous shapes, half dissolved in darkness, hissing in a language that churned his stomach with terror. At their center was a woman so radiant that even subdued, she shone like moonlight through parted clouds. She stood, defiant, though her aura seemed critically dimmed. Had he turned back, no mortal would have blamed him. These were the dreaded illusions rumored to steal away travelers in the dead of night. Yet Lugren remembered the older stories he had heard in taverns, how the Lady of Morning was beloved of the land. If she was in danger, the entire world balanced on the edge of everlasting night. Mustering his shaky courage, the bard plucked the small wooden harp from his side. Music was the only magic he wielded. So, with trembling fingers, he began to play. His melody was faint, a whisper of string against wood, yet it spiraled through the dark like a slender beam of light. He sang of sunlit fields, of children's laughter at first dawn, of the colour in flowers when the day first broke. His voice quavered, but his longing for the morning shone through, and in that melody, Helene felt a portion of her power revived. The demons grew agitated. A mortal song was frivolous, they thought, too frail to contend with ancient nightmares. But music was older and deeper than their cunning. It could stir the heart, bring tears, and inspire hope. Ludokran's notes drifted into Aina's flickering aura, stabilizing her, reminding her of the boundless wonder of day. Slowly her eyelids lifted, her posture straightened. The illusions that tethered her to the night began to weaken. Narach, scowling beneath his shifting, shadowy visage, ordered the demons to silence the bard. Several of them tore away from the goddess and rushed Ludokran. A swirl of blackness closed in on him, threatening to swallow his figure. With desperation, Ludokran kept playing, though fear hammered at his chest. He poured every ounce of conviction into the next chords. His harp soared, weaving a tapestry of memories. Dawn-chilled grass, gentle rays filtering through stone circles, the hush of a world awakening. The closer the demons drew, the more fervent his performance became, like a defiant tempest facing the storm. Aina seized that moment. With a deep breath, she summoned her inner flame, newly kindled by the bard's music. A thin column of golden light emerged from her palm, slicing through the remaining demons, still holding her captive. They screamed in protest, twisted forms dissolving in the radiance. Aina's eyes now shone with renewed brilliance. As she became free from their physical hold, she recognized that once more time was dangerously short. The sky in the east remained stubbornly dark. The sun, confused and unclaimed, hovered below the horizon, awaiting her call. Even if she escaped the grove, the magical corruption the demons unleashed could still hold the sun off course. She rushed to the oak at the center, a majestic sentinel rumored to be the oldest in the grove. Knowing its roots anchored the grove's power, placing her palm against its trunk, she attempted to channel healing warmth into the core. But she was jolted by a biting cold. The corruption pulsed within the oak's ancient arteries, anchoring the nightmares in place. She could sense the black threads as they dug deep, burrowing like parasites in the primal magic. She needed more than her own power to dispel that festering gloom. Seeing the goddess's plight, Ludokran freed himself from the last wisp of darkness, then dashed to Aina's side. Without thinking, he pressed his trembling hand against the trunk as well, layering his warmth over hers. In that moment, the rhythm of the harp's melody lingered in the air, winding into Aina's power. She closed her eyes and focused. White gold light flared from her fingertips, traveling into the ancient bark. The oak began to tremble. A cascade of vibrant energy coursed through its branches, which had been moaning in silent agony. Gradually, the black smoke clinging to the trunk seeped away, burned off by pure sunlight. The circle of demons drew back, screeching at this combined resilience. Narach, however, had not yet conceded defeat. With a furious howl, he unleashed a final wave of shadowy illusions. The night thickened into a swirling vortex around the grove. Everything, from the ground to the very sky, turned murky and colorless. The shrieking wind whipped Ludokran's cloak and tossed Aline's golden hair in every direction, biting at them with an otherworldly chill. Her aura flickered as the swirling vortex swallowed the horizon, threatening to trap them in an endless labyrinth of midnight. But the center oak, now detoxified of darkness, anchored Aina to the heart of the grove. She had one last push in her, to guide the sun itself through the swirling chaos. Summoning a deep breath, Aina beckoned the dawn from wherever it lingered just below sight. She raised her arms, and light streamed from her chest, an unspoken prayer traveling into realms that only a dawn goddess could access. Ludokran, though blind in the vortex, sensed her desperation. He lifted his harp and continued to play, as though weaving a golden ladder of melody for the sun to climb. Together they fought the pressing darkness. A faint glow shimmered in the distance, piercing the swirling gloom. Narach bellowed in fury, mustering whatever thickness of shadow he could conjure. The gloom coalesced around him, forging a monstrous visage of swirling black. Yet from beneath that black, the sun's rays emerged, unmoved by fear. The tip of the blazing orb broke through, painting the vortex in gradients of bronze and pink. Light spilled across the grove in a rush of warmth. In that explosion of day, the illusions shattered. Narach's form peeled away, ripped by the unstoppable dawn. Thick mists of darkness vanished into the air, leaving only a faint putrid smell behind. One last harrowing shriek of the demon leader echoed on the wind as the sunlight burned him into nothingness. Then, utter stillness, followed by a triumphant chorus of birds singing in the newly unveiled morning. Aina sank to her knees, radiant tears streaming down her cheeks. The golden sunlight crowned her bowed head, and her aura flared brilliantly once more, this time without hindrance. The grove's oaks seemed to sigh in unison, leaves rustling in relief. Lulokran dropped his harp. He stared at the goddess, unable to tell if the whirl of color he witnessed was reality or some lingering dream. But Aeorn, regaining her composure, rose and offered a grateful smile to the mortal who had come to her aid. In her eyes lingered the fiery compassion of the morning star. "You have done more for this land than you know," she said gently. Her voice carried the echo of dawn's first rays. "You have safeguarded the light for all." She bent to pick up the harp and returned it to him. "Your music is a beacon. Many more will need your courage and your song." That morning, as dawn stretched across the moors, an otherworldly hush encompassed the former battle site. Rays of newborn sunlight cast themselves across the twisted roots now uncoiled. Where Narach and his legion had stood, only a few charred patches of earth remained. The oak's leaves glowed, shimmering gold in the sun that Ainen had freed. She beckoned Lorcran to follow her to the far edge of the grove, where the land opened into a rolling meadow. There, at last, they beheld the crown brilliance of the sun ascending the horizon, the long-delayed dawn flooding the vista in a tapestry of scarlet and amber. It was a sight that brought tears to the bard's eyes, for never before had he known how precious each sunrise could be, nor how close it had come to being lost. Other animals emerged in the dawn's wake, as though sensing that their goddess had prevailed. Deer pranced at the forest fringe, sniffing the air. Birds soared in bright arcs across the sky, singing a victory chorus. Murmuring breezes carried the scent of dew-kissed wildflowers. Every color seemed more vibrant, each moment more alive, as though the entire land rejoiced in the radiant might of Aeorni's deliverance from the black tide of nightmares. Lulokran observed Aeorni from a respectful distance. Now that the immediate crisis had passed, he felt the old stories swirling in his thoughts. The legends of a dawned goddess, whose power shaped the cycle of day and night, who possessed more grace and might than any mortal could truly comprehend. He knelt down in reverence, and Aeorni approached, her expression soft. "Rise," she told the bard gently, "for this day dawned not by my strength alone. Your heart's courage and your gift of song lit a beacon for me in the darkness." A faint blush warmed Lulokran's cheeks. Despite his initial fear, he was proud to have aided the goddess, aware that the choice to stand against the nightmares would remain the bravest moment of his life. "I did what I could," he murmured, clutching his harp. "But I am only a bard. You are the one who truly restored the dawn." She placed a hand on his shoulder, and the morning light shimmered around them like a protective halo. "Each dawn cannot arrive by my will alone," Alan replied. "The hope and faith of mortal hearts are woven into the fabric of daybreak. Your convictions were as vital as any power I hold." They walked together through the meadow, the early sun's rays warming the grass. In the distance, the outlines of small cottages and scattered farms came into view. People began stirring from within, stepping outside to greet the sun with relief and wonder. Most would never know how close the world had come to being plunged into unending darkness, nor would they see the shadowy remains of the demons vanquished by dawn's relentless brilliance. Yet the quiet contentment on their faces said enough. The day was theirs again, the realm of warmth and light, a blessing renewed. At the edge of a trail leading to the nearest village, Aeone paused. She looked upon Lolocran with a mixture of gratitude and gentle sadness. "I must return to my eternal duty," she said. "My rest will be brief, but necessary. New battles may come in the future, for the cycle of day and night is ever turning. The sleep demons may rise again, in new shapes, with new strategies, but let your songs be a reminder that even a fragile light can dispel the mightiest night." Lucran watched her form shimmer, infused by the radiant beams rising higher in the sky. For a moment, her presence seemed entwined with every glint of dawn that sparkled on dew, every whisper of wind that rustled the leaves. "Will you need me again?" he asked, though he suspected the answer was complicated. Aene's smile was warm, her voice echoing like a golden bell in the crisp air. "Each morning I need all of you, the entire living world, to beckon the dawn with hope. Whenever you hear a hush in the pre-dawn stillness, or see a swirl of unexplained shadow, remember, the light needs your belief as a shield against the darkness. Bard, warrior, child, or elder, each has a role in sustaining the day." With that, she faded into a halo of sunbeams, dissolving as the star lifted fully into the sky. It shone bright as ever, if not brighter for the struggle it had endured. The new day, claimed by Elaine, found the world in grateful reawakening. Lucaren stood for a time, quiet, letting the sunlight soak into his skin. Then, slinging his harp gently over his shoulder, he turned toward the village. He would sing of what happened in the grove, to remind people that the line between day and night was never guaranteed. In each home, by each hearth and tavern, by the flicker of candlelight in the evening, he would recount the day the dawn nearly did not come, and how their own faith and love played a part in its liberation. That evening found Ludank run enthralling a small crowd with his tale. Children leaned forward, eyes wide with wonder, as he described the swirling shadows in battle with the dawn goddess. Elders nodded gravely, recalling legends from their youth, while younger folk found their hearts pounding with the urgency of a story they hadn't realized could be so real. When the final chord of his harp echoed against the stone tavern walls, a hush fell upon the listeners. They sensed, in that moment, both the fragility and resilience of their world. Inside, the sky had darkened, but a gentle glimmer in the east offered reassurance that day would indeed return on the morrow. From that night forward, Leocron continued to travel, spreading the memory of the dawn's triumph. He learned new verses from those with deeper lore. He refined his song until it painted shimmering colors in the very air. Over time, knowledge of Narash's defeat and Elaine's perseverance wove into the genealogies of mortal families, seeding new hope among the people. No matter how fierce the night's illusions, mortals remembered that the goddess walked among them, her smile heralded by the break of day, her victory each morning a testament to the world's unwavering yearning for light. And so the land thrived, each dawn a renewed act of grace. Though the memory of the demon's near success lingered like an aftertaste of fear, it also ignited an understanding. Day and night were bound in a dance that invoked both terror and awe. Aine's role was vital, but the faith of mortals served as an indispensable ally. Songs and prayers, like sweet dew, arose from hearts that cherished the warm glimmer of first light. Even as generations passed, the story endured, told around peat fires in winter, recounted as gentle hushes in the bright, budding days of spring. The promise remained that as long as belief shone in the hearts of mortals, dawn would not fail them. Some say that occasionally, while travelling through the cold and star-laden hours before morning, you might sense a brush of warmth, a flicker that urges you onward. That is Arne's unceasing vow, a whisper of encouragement that the sunrise will indeed pierce the horizon. And sometimes, if you are especially attuned, you might look up to find an echo of harp music drifting on the breeze. Seek out the nearest circle of ancient stones or a grove of venerable oaks, and you may feel a golden presence at the edge of your vision lighting your path. It is the glow of hope, birthed by the goddess who fights through dark illusions to defend each new day. It is the living testimony that in this world, or in any world, light may be challenged but never fully conquered as long as hearts remain open to its call.